I was scared to live. I was thinking about hurting myself.
Joshua Douglas is a 32-year-old man who has suffered from depression since he lost his best friend in 2016. Depression is not a simple feeling of sadness. It is a disease. The Ontario government website shows that 1 in 4 Canadians suffers from depression in their lifetime. For Joshua, depression is...
It's physical. You can't move. You can't do anything. It starts as a mental thing, but it becomes a physical thing.
In his case, he has suffered from not only depression, but anxiety. He said he often felt chest pain.
And believe me, before that happened, I was actually at the peak of my life of being the happiest I'd ever been.
That was until his best friend Corey Lovis took his own life. Joshua was born in Mississauga. He grew up with 2 older sisters and his friend Corey. Joshua spent a lot of time with Corey. They often played hockey at home, as well as video games and watched movies together. Joshua is 5'9" and built like a hockey player, and I guess he looks younger than his 32 years. He attended university in the USA on a hockey scholarship.
When I was playing hockey and there was a big game, the championship game, that's when I shine. That's when I play my best.
Joshua was strong and confident. He liked hockey because he felt comfortable in high-pressure situations. He also performed as a singer. He loved the attention he received from the crowd. He also enjoyed his job at a film company. Life felt great until he faced Corey's death.
Yeah, I lost my brother. He was my brother.
Joshua showed his grief and guilt. Despite all of the time they spent together, he had no idea that Corey was suffering from severe depression.
Corey took his own life, and it was almost like a 180, completely different. I lost it. I mean, why shouldn't I join him? I was right there with him all the time anyway.
Questions that everyone's asked in this past week. Why did this happen? How
This
did
is
this
Joshua's
happen?
speech.
Corey,
Joshua
I know
ended
people
up
always
speaking
my
at
brother.
Corey's funeral.
I will
It
see
was
you
a Friday
later,
afternoon.
but not
The
yet.
church was crowded with
I
Corey's
have no
friends.
tasks to
Church staff brought extra chairs for visitors, but it was still standing room only.
People there that worked at the funeral home said they'd never seen so many people come out. He always backed me up. He made me make friends. He introduced me to 90% of my friends. He made my life better every time I was with him.
Corey was just 30 years old. He never asked for help. Joshua couldn't get past the loss of his best friend, and it triggered Joshua's own depression. I interviewed Joshua's mother, Helen. She's a kind, lovely, and honest person. She cares about her family more than anything. She was hesitant to accept my request at first, but when we finally spoke, she opened her heart. Possibly because she knew me. I was once Joshua's girlfriend. I asked her how Joshua had changed.
He didn't act like himself. I knew it was because of the death that he was drinking more than he should have been.
It wasn't just Corey. Joshua lost his father and his grandfather.
Like, those are the 3 main men in his life that were there for him and are now gone. His father, his grandfather, who he was like so close with, and his best buddy. And all 3 are gone. And his girlfriend had gone back home.
I lost my best friend, and then I lost the girl that I'm in love with.
That was devastating for me. I didn't realize that he was going to slip deeper into his depression when I left Toronto. But legally, I had to leave because my permit was going to expire. I knew his loss, but I didn't really understand what depression was, what Joshua had been through.
This is my son who I love more than my own life. I saw him behaving. I didn't even recognize him. He was like a stranger to me.
I went to visit Joshua's oldest sister, Tara, a couple of weeks ago. Tara lives in Etobicoke. She has 2 beautiful children. Sloan is a 4-year-old girl, and William is a 1-year-old boy. Sloan loves to play with Joshua. Every time she finds Joshua, she says, I was really happy to be there. Sloan's laughing, running around, and William's toddling. It was a lovely moment, and Joshua seemed like his old self. I asked Tara what Joshua means to her.
I see that he's just the sweetest guy, and he's so good with my kids, and he's just really loving and heartwarming, and, he means the world to me.
She explains how Joshua changed after Corey passed away.
I just felt like he wasn't there, and if I would bring anything up, how's Corey, how are you dealing with this, he'd be like, I'm fine, and he wouldn't really want to talk about it. So, you should go talk to someone. It's very important that you do that. And he'd be like, yeah, I'll go do it. And he never did.
Here's the thing. We can all recognize that he needs help, but if he doesn't recognize it, if the person doesn't recognize that they need help, there's nothing anyone can do.
Statistics Canada shows that more than 90% of people who commit suicide have a mental or addictive disorder. Depression is the most common, and 60% of Canadians suffer from this. In Canada, suicide is the 9th leading cause of death, but among those aged 15 to 34, suicide is second. I interviewed Alex Schendelman, program manager of the Distress Center in Toronto. I asked him how to prevent depressed people from committing suicide.
Well, it's very difficult because people who lose somebody to suicide are at higher risk. I think that in how you support somebody, because if you're supporting somebody who's dealing with depression and it's connected to a suicide loss, then you want to help them deal with the grief as well.
Joshua has found another source of support. His name is Rob Connor. He's been working at the same company with Joshua for over 3 years. He is a big man with long hair and a long beard. When you start chatting with Rob, you will see what a sweet guy he is. I found out why the two had grown so close. He also lost his father and his best friend, and Rob was present for Joshua whenever Joshua needed.
With this guy, I feel like sometimes talking them down a ledge. He telling me in the middle of the night they want to kill themselves. And how do you deal with that? It's not an easy situation. And all you could do at that point is just love.
Hearing from Joshua's family and his friends made me realize that they love him unconditionally. Joshua's mother, Helen, said,
Every time I talk to him, I love you more than you could ever imagine.
And his sister, Tara,
tell him, I'm always here for you. And I invited him over a lot so that he wouldn't be alone.
Eventually, Joshua says he realized that he had to make changes, that he had to see a counselor. It took him some time to book an appointment, but his family and his friends never gave up on him. When Joshua told me how his family and his friends helped, tears were rolling down his cheeks. Finally, Joshua went to see a counselor.
I spoke to a therapist. She just said, try working out again, try eating healthy, start with taking care of yourself. I see my high school friends that all knew Corey. I try and see them at least a couple times a month. We play hockey together once a week. Last summer, we won the championship in Corey's honor.
Since then, Joshua has been promoted. His new job keeps him very busy and he looks happy again. He is also chasing a new dream to be an actor. He goes to multiple acting classes and he attends auditions when he's called.
I'm so happy to actually be on stage and be the center of attention, have the cameras on me, the lights, the camera. But that's when I feel perfect. That's when I feel like myself. I'm looking forward to the future as opposed to happy again.
Joshua still lives with depression, but he's learning how to cope. Since coming back to Toronto, Joshua and I often see each other. I'm his ex-girlfriend now, but I will keep supporting him. That's love too. In Toronto, Ontario, I'm Amy Takahata.